Hello, I'm George Gonzalez. I'm obsessed with making games, and today is Multiplayer Monday. So we're going to talk about a multiplayer feature. Today is network interactable. This tutorial, it doesn't matter if it's VR or non-VR. This is for anyone that wants to learn about objects, interacting with network objects. So let's say you want to pick up an item or have multiple people be able to pick up the same item. Okay, so you have a network object that multiple players can either interact with it or do something. And the hardest thing that you could do probably is in VR is have a network grabbable, something that someone can grab. The reason that is because there is lag to take into account. And that is something very hard to deal with because you'd want the perfect scenario. My first advice is when you're dealing with interactables and network behaviors, this is Fusion, but in general, one of the hardest things to do is race conditions where you are trying to do a tiebreaker, especially in games, and that's more for competitive games. In the case scenario that you are an indie dev, my advice usually is if you can avoid it, don't do anything that would require multiple people trying to grab a component or try to race for something, because that's like a competitive thing and it gets really difficult. So unless you've done multiplayer before and you know about server authority or you know how to do interpolation or predictions, I would stick with the simple stuff. I know that this happened for us, Monkey Do. One of the things that, one of the ideas for Monkey Do, one of the things was, oh, let's just spawn a ball and have everyone play with that ball. And the problem is that yanking that ball in and out and networking that was a nightmare. So it's not as easy and simple as it sounds. And hopefully after this video, you'll understand why. Because I want to go over specifically what to do. Okay. So usually, let's say we spawn this mechanic. Let's say I spawn something that is grabbable that you want, kind of like Diablo. Let's say you spawn a loot. You spawn loot that everyone can see. So you drop a cosmetic or something in the world and everyone can see it. And the first person to click on it will get it. How do we do logic like that? Well, the first thing you do is not do something simpler. Maybe you spawn if everyone gets a different spawn, and that way you don't have to fight for it. But if you have to do it, some things to take into consideration is in VR we have this interactable grabbables. So let's say you have a script for grabbing components. I would disable that first. Probably, or it's up to you what you do. But basically, the server has authority, and the server will decide what to do. But let's say you don't have a server. In this case scenario with VR, you all have different state authorities over things. Okay, let's say you have an interactable. Okay, we have a grabbable component of some sort. Okay, and let's say we want a boolean, and we'll have it networked. So we have a network. Then we have a boolean is grabbed and equals false. So the idea with this is that we'll have it be networked. Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's say we have the is grab, right? And by default is false. So on spawn, one thing that I like to do, at least let's say we spawn something. Public void override. Override. Spawn. Okay, so we have this spawn mechanic. Okay, if the first thing I do is when we spawn it, we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Okay, so let's say I spawn a sword. Or there's a sword that I can grab. So the first thing you do is when it spawns, if I have state authority, interactable enabled equals true. So first I enable it. If I don't have state authority, let's do a return here. If I don't have state authority, I'll just change it to false. Okay. So the idea with this is that we make sure only the person that has authority can grab it. The reason why I do this is so that so the race condition is the condition to who has state authority. So let's say I spawn it, I own it. But if someone wants to take it, they can. But and the logic depends on you, right? On what you want to do. But this is generally what I do to start off. So that way, let's say I have a sword and someone can yank it from me. That's not ideal unless you want that. If you want that feature, then you can enable it. Because when the object gets spawned, it will spawn the same way every time. So we have to make sure that I'm aware of this, what this is. So if I have it on by default, then if I spawn it, and someone grabs it right before I spawn it, or right as I'm spawning it, they could probably grab it if they're early enough. So that's why right away on spawn I turned it off. Okay. The other thing that we have to do is, okay, so what are we racing for? So one thing we're gonna do, is implement this interface. So this is when the authority changes. So what's gonna happen is when this is the authority changes, I'm just gonna do this. So I could let me see, void okay, check who owns. Okay, checks who owns. So, or that's a bad name, but let's just do that, and that way we can only do it once. So anytime I'm about to copy paste something, I just create the function that I need to check. So in this scenario, we're going to check who owns it, and we're going to check in who owns it here. So that way, this every time whether the state authority changes or something spawn or this thing spawns, it will always check who owns it, and it will turn on and off depending on who owns it. Okay, it's the same here. When it changes authority, we check, and this will be triggered on every client. And the person that has the state authority will get it. Okay, so now how do I claim state authority? Well, what happens usually, we have, let's say for my rig, my guy, I have a rig, and let's say I have a hand like right there. I had something on my hand, right hand controller. See how I have different grab interactor. So this grab interactor, what I could do is I could make claim state authority. And this one will be bigger, so I'll make a bigger radius. That's a little too big. But let's say what was it at? 0.05. Okay, so 0.1 maybe, or 0.2. Okay, that's a little bit big. But so the idea with this is that it's gonna create. We're not gonna use this. We're not gonna use this. We're gonna create another script called claim state authority. And I'm doing this from scratch just to show you kind of how I go about checking things. And the reason why I do this is because you can get in a lot of problems with the what is it called, with the interactor or stuff, or things don't behave like you think they should. Okay, so this is one way that I do. I get all the checks ready so that I can have it set up this way. So claim state authority here, and what this is going to do, I need a rigid body on this, but let's say I know it's on trigger enter. Okay, so anytime this thing on trigger enter, if other dot, and then we're probably going to use fusion here. So I can still use if other dot get component, or no, let me see. We can do if it has a network object. Okay, because that's the, so this will claim state authority over anything that it sees. Okay, so if the other has state authority, if it's a network object, okay, let's do with this scenario, we have to do, I guess the best way to do is grab interactable. So if it has a network object interactable, so in this scenario, interactable. Okay, so if we have this network interactable, we know it's a network object. But if you wanted to do a general network object, you could. The reason why we're doing this is because we got to check if it's grabbed. So this is the point where there's multiple checks, because we have to check, is the object being grabbed? Okay, and then so if the object being grabbed, let me see, network interactable is grabbed, is called. Oh, and I forgot to make it public, right? So we have it public. Oops. What? Okay. So in here is grabbed. Okay. So if it's not grabbed, then we can claim. Okay. So usually what I do is if it's not grabbed and I don't have state authority, you could do something like that, or and usually you can get away with less than this. Like if you just check, but these are I'm just trying to show you all the possible interactions and booleans you can flip to give yourself the control that you need, because you will have a specific objective with your interactables. And so I'm giving you all the checks that you can do, and then you can take away some if you don't need them. But that way, if you have like a capture the flag game mode where you need to be like, okay, well, I can't take the flag from somebody, but if I hit them or stun them, they'll drop the flag and then I can grab it, right? Or if I'm about to grab it, it'll take the flag away. Okay, so if we don't have state authority, so if we don't have state authority, and it's not being grabbed, that means I can take it. So I can say other network object dot request state authority. Okay, so this is going to give me state authority if I'm allowed, and that's all you need. Okay, because what's going to happen is the moment this changes state authority, it will enable the interactable and it will allow me to grab it. Okay, the other thing you can do instead of enabling the component is you could just do an automatic attacher, right? Like a component that lets people just grab it when it changes state authority. But your logic can be different. This is just the way I'm doing it because the script here already counts for that. The last thing you would need to do in here with the interactable is allow state authority override, at least for Fusion, right? We're talking about Fusion. State authority override means that you can actually switch back and forth. So if you didn't want to do this, the swapping, then you would have to uncheck this. But because this is specific tutorial or what we're trying to understand today is interactables, network interactables that multiple people can interact with, which is the hardest thing. Once you do if you don't change state authority, then that's fine. And you can do other things, right? It's okay. But today we're talking about, okay, what if I want to grab something? Or like a basketball. This could be the basketball, right? And so how do you steal the basketball from someone else? Maybe you can. Maybe you have to wait till someone lets go of it when they let go. The other thing you can, in here that we're going to do is the grab option. How do we know when it's grabbed? Well, in this scenario, we can do this. Interactable. And I don't know if it'll let me networked interactable is grabbed right there. Okay, so then it'll let me change it. So then when I select it, it'll change it. And when I drop it, it will turn it. I can do an interactable is grabbed to false. So now I have the booleans, right? So the component is telling the game object when it's interactable or not. And because it's only enabled when the player has state authority, I won't have any problems. So that's one of the reasons why I like doing it this way. Because if you don't do this logic for has state authority, let's say you don't disable this, you will start running into errors because you'll be changing a boolean network variable from a client, and that's not allowed. The only thing you can do, you can only change the variables when you have state authority. So this prevents you from doing that. Okay, when authority changes, we enable this interactable, so you can grab it, you can let go of it, and then when you grab it and you let go of it, it has the boolean trigger. And then how do we claim state authority is with that on trigger enter. And we would need, you also want to change this, you got to be aware of this for the movement. Oh, sorry. So I'm going to move myself here. You have different movements that you want to make sure you do. And you don't want to use this interpolation. The other thing that I want to do is do a network transform to make sure that it's networking. And again, if we want to disable interpolation, if we're doing it differently, how we're updating the transform. If you want to do more physics related, there are different tools, but then at that point, the best solution is quantum because they do the deterministic. And that's why I said, usually this is peer-to-peer and VR is the simplest. If you want more competitive and you want deterministic model, quantum is the way to go for that. And that's something that I haven't done yet, but I want to do eventually. For right now, this should help you in whatever game mode you are. You want to do an interactable and you're looking to like, okay, how do I juggle these things or these concepts? Well, does it have state authority? Do you have network? If it's being grabbed or if I have it, right? So if it's like the first person to get it calls an RPC that changes it, or it's just it's already grabbed. And so no one else can grab it. You can do certain things how you want. Just now you know that you have options, different variables that you can use for your interactables. And so that you can claim authority. And it's the same for any network solution, depending on what you're doing. Are you doing relay in Unity? Or are you doing host and clients? You're doing a headless server. All those are valid. It's just you have to think about what happens when multiple people try to grab the same thing. Anytime you do something network that other multiple people can interact with, you have to think of the case scenarios where these things happen, where multiple people are trying to grab the same thing. How are you going to consolidate that or, just resolve the issue? And there's no clear cut way. You have to compromise and figure out what the best, either visually or as a player experience, what's the best and the most fair for your game. We'll see you next Monday when we do another multiplayer network solution to help you understand how to do multiplayer games.